Hello, good morning, and welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain also. Good to be here again. Well, yes, indeed, so much played out yesterday and still playing out today, but we're keeping tabs on developments in different parts of the country to try and bring you as much as we can while we can. Well, yes, indeed. Also monitoring the feeds on the social media to see what really is going on there. Well, yes, you can send us a message or two, whatever information you think is happening somewhere that probably might need some checking out. You might as well just go ahead and get them across to us. But then you do have so much response, not just locally, globally. Lots of people are raising awareness, speaking up about some of these matters. Nigerians in different parts of the country, different parts of the world are lending their voices to see how there can be, in fact, no more loss of lives and property, as a matter of fact. But I know that the Senate did ask the presidents to address the country concerning what is happening, the protest, but many still looking to see how that will play out. But the vice president put up a statement on his social media handle yesterday about this same matter. And well, yes, it's been getting a lot of reactions as well on social media. It says, "My heart goes out to all the victims of the Lekki shootings and also the policemen and all of the men and women who lost their lives in the past few days in different parts of Lagos and other states. I spoke to some of those in hospital. The pain of these terrible events, it's palpable in our towns and cities, and some losses are irreplaceable, but we can and will get justice for all of them. I stand with Lagos and all other affected states in these trying times. We pray we will never see a repeat of these tragedies in Jesus' name." So he went on and, at least got a lot of message there. But you have not just in Nigeria, you have so many citizens as well, friends of the country who are keeping tabs. Well, former President Bill Clinton says, "I'm deeply concerned over reports of violence in Lagos and urge the Nigerian government to engage in peaceful dialogue with the EndSARS protesters for police reform and an end to corruption." Well, it's just going to be quite interesting because a lot of reactions equally trailing his comments as well on that one. Well, it's not just him who spoke, as you can see right there on the screen. Global leaders, Nigerians had earlier spoken about how they wanted a lot more attention to what is happening. So that is the UN's Antonio Guterres says, "I condemn the escalation of violence in Lagos, Nigeria, which has resulted in multiple deaths and injuries. I call for demonstrations to be peaceful and for an end to reported police brutality and abuses. Authorities must investigate these incidents and hold perpetrators accountable." Well, that equally getting a lot of response. But yes, well, even in the US as well, Joe Biden, he's a Democratic candidate in this forthcoming elections. He equally put out a statement concerning what is happening. Well, if you can get that, I might as well just go ahead and read it out. He says, "I urge President Buhari and the Nigerian military to cease the violent crackdown on protesters in Nigeria, which has already resulted in several deaths. My heart goes out to all those who have lost a loved one in the violence. The United States must stand with Nigerians who are peacefully demonstrating for police reform and seeking an end to corruption in their democracy. I encourage the government to engage in a good faith dialogue with civil society to address these long-standing grievances and work together for a more just and inclusive Nigeria." Yes, indeed. So he is a Democratic candidate, and so he's also weighed in on the particular incident. So the voices, different voices. Well, former President Obasanjo equally spoke about what is going on to the government, urging caution to see how do we ensure that, look, this has just got to cease? If they're protesting to ensure that things get better, they need to just go in and then sort that out. Well, yes, perhaps beyond the text, we might as well just listen to him, well, for those who may have just missed some part of it.
It's with a heavy heart and a deep sense of concern about the ongoing violence, chaos, and unrest in many parts of Nigeria that I make this appeal to the government and people of our dear country, Nigeria, to eschew violence and embrace peace and dialogue in finding solutions to the challenges we face as a country. I particularly appeal to President Muhammadu Buhari in his capacities as President of Nigeria, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, and as a parent of youth like the ones who have in the last week or so come out in peaceful protest against police brutality and for improvement in their lives and their living conditions, to restrain the military and other security agencies from using brute force as a way of ending the crisis. The shooting and murder of unarmed protesters, no matter the level of provocation, has never been effective in suppressing public anger and frustration. Instead, such actions only reinforce the anger and frustration of the populace and close the window of dialogue and peaceful resolution. It is clear that Mr. President and his lieutenants did not exhaust the opportunities for dialogue with the protesters before resorting to use of force. It is worse that there is denial of wrongdoing in spite of overwhelming visual evidence. Great harm has now been done, but it can be stopped before it completely spirals out of control. We are at a critical moment in this crisis, and Mr. President must act now before it is too late. This time demands leadership and mature leadership as such. Most of the demands of the protesting youth, which Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State swiftly took to the president, are not unreasonable and can be met without anyone's political interest or ambition being threatened. It is imperative that leaders at all levels, starting with Mr. President, must demonstrate meekness, humanity, humaneness, and sincerity in meeting the legitimate demands of the protesters and ensuring that justice is served where it must be served. These are the most potent ways of ending this crisis now. The youth too, I will want you to give peace a chance while making your legitimate demands. You must be mindful of miscreants who will infiltrate your ranks and give the protests a bad name, only so that trigger-happy forces will kill you. The destruction and looting of public and private properties will only hurt all of us and set us back. The targeting of individuals and groups for attacks and reprisal attacks will only further widen our divisions, escalate the crisis, and threaten our fragile unity. This is yet another moment when our nation is on the edge of a cliff. Our individual and collective actions now and in the next few days will determine where we will go as a nation. May God help us in taking the right steps in the right directions.
And those are the things we need to begin to work out now, taking the right steps in the right direction. I mean, what better way to put it from someone who's been there, former president, two-time president, military head of state, he's been there in the army, so he's seen things, he's been around. Because what anarchists won't tell you when they goad you to go ahead and attack lives or target individuals and property is that, look, at the end of the day, whoever property or businesses they ask you to go attend probably have millions or billions in insurance, so they will eventually get their payout. Now, if there are about 500, 300, 200, 1,000 people working there, you multiply that by 2 or 3 because they have families and dependents. Those are the people who will suffer. Is that what you really want to do, to let those Nigerians suffer? They are the ones who you're supposed to be working for and not against. So these are things that we need to actually sit back and think before people goad you to go out there and do that. So we need to do what we can to ensure that all hands on deck to make sure things don't get any worse because lives have been lost already. We can't afford any more loss of lives. Well, yesterday, our correspondent Ayo, yes, he was just trying to, just filing some reports while we were on the air about what was going on. And then some incident occurred, but yes, he will go ahead and speak to us now. You may not have seen him here, but he joins us now just to let us know how he is doing. Hello, Ayo. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm so much better. Good morning and thank you. It wasn't particularly a new experience when it comes to the terrain, as some people would say, but it's never something anyone would want to happen to anyone at all. Well, what happened yesterday was that while I was giving that report, telling people what was at the moment happening at Television Continental, some young folks came around and I was just wondering what they were here for. I thought maybe they just wanted to be part of the whole thing. But then before I knew what was happening, I saw that they were being violent. They wanted to collect my phone. I'm wondering, and I don't know if you saw me. I swung the camera to their face to see that I was live on TV, but they just wouldn't hear it. They wanted to stab me. They wanted to collect the phone. I just had to leave that place as quickly as I could. I was in the middle of all of that. I mean, fleeing from them because it was just one or two of them that came at first. And then an increasing number began to show up. Before I knew what was happening, there were like 10 coming to 15. So I had to, move away from them. I was rescued. Was in the middle of moving away from them that, one of them, slid me and made me fall to the ground. I sprained a wrist. I got a laceration in the head, but I'm perfectly okay. It was actually another set of people who saw me pass by. I was like, wait a minute, I just saw this guy pass by here. And that was just it. So we just have to give God thanks that, it wasn't that bad. But one thing, Chamberlain, that I also saw yesterday was that there are 3 categories of people in this whole melee. One are the legitimate protesters, the youth who are, fairly educated, who are business owners, celebrities, who have been directly affected by what's going on. The second are the reasonable ones who are also affected, maybe more indirectly than directly, loss of jobs, and so many other societal stuff. The third category are the miscreants, the hoodlums who just want to take undue advantage of what has happened and what is happening. Just this morning I was seeing a live broadcast of someone on Twitter who was showing us what's happened at Circle Mall at Jakonde. It's been completely razed, completely vandalized, and everything inside of it stolen, including a car that was supposed to be a gift for some competition. So the earlier we are able to have these or resolved, the better for us. Because what it has cost not just government. Now, what it has cost individuals, Chamberlain, you and I know, we can't even begin to put figures to it.
Well, there was a lot of confusion out there in terms of who's where, who's doing what, and people trying to give others a bad name. Were you able to identify who were those people who carried out that attack?
Well, from the attack on me or the attack on
Yes,
CDC Continent?
on you.
The attack on me, they were just miscreants, little boys. I don't think those guys, I don't even think they are up to my children in age. They're just small boys, wielding sticks, sticks and wood and even a knife. One of them, brought out a big boulder of wood, to attack me. That is it was at that point that some other people who had seen me pass by was like, no, we know this guy. And they were the ones who rescued me from them, got water to wash the wound that was already bleeding and all of that. So, yeah, but they are not the reasonable protesters at all. They're just miscreants who wanted to collect my phone.
All right, then. Well, good to know that you're fine, because lots of people were really calling to find out, what did they just see? Did they just see what they saw? But good to know. Just get some rest, and we'll get back to you. Get back to wherever you can. But most importantly, you need to be well to be able to work.
Yeah, and I will also advise that you also and all of my colleagues just please stay as safe as possible. Maybe stay back at the office until as late as possible, but please.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Ayo. So stay well. Well, so there you go. That is the thing, because, a lot of these boys, they're out there on the streets. We see them when we're going to work or going about our businesses. They're just people out there. Some of them, you see them acting under the influence because of taking some substances as they were. So many talking points, and the businesses, the shops, people who they attack, they're Nigerians like everybody else here who are trying to eke out a living like everybody else. Why attack their businesses? Why put them out of what they're trying to do to survive? And then the dependent as well. That is the way our society is here. So when you carry out some of those things, you need to think again before you actually do go, because at the end of the day, if you throw a stone in the market, you know how the African proverb says, you never know who that might get across to. Well, just to give you an update in terms of what is happening in different parts of the country, we'll put up this report just to gauge the opinion out there. So let's bring it to you from across the country, what's happening and where.
Economic activities paralyzed and streets almost deserted as the EndSARS protests assume a dangerous turn.
They are not killing anybody. The only thing they are doing is destroying police property, burning down things, and setting all the bags they have.
In Ebonyi State, suspected hoodlums hijacked the protest to cause havoc, burning the police station in the state capital, Abakaliki.
We don't have lights, oh God. Hey, our lights are good.
This forces the state governor, David Umahi, to impose a 24-hour curfew, and he asked security agencies to block all the borders of the state.
I offer my apologies for many areas we leaders, we have failed our young children. And I appeal to all security agencies to continue to maintain calm, even in the face of severe provocation and attack. And whether these people came from outside is a reality, but they remain our children.
In Abia State, the wreckage of burnt tires litter the road while the Imo State government acts on security reports to extend the curfew until further notice.
I will not want an unavoidable incident that can lead to loss of lives to occur in the state. I will do all that is needful to maintain peace and security for all Imo people. Consequently, to ensure that the peace in the state is not disturbed, a 24-hour curfew is hereby imposed in the state till further notice.
Protesters in Anambra blocked the Niger Bridge, causing traffic gridlock on the Onitsha-Asaba road, with motorists spending hours on it. The curfew in Rivers State was restricted to Port Harcourt, Oyibo and Obiakpo local government areas as government directs affected local government chairmen and security agencies to enforce order.
Local government chairmen are directed to mobilize vigilantes and work with security agencies to ensure that no hoodlum is allowed to disturb the peace or destroy lives and property in their local government areas. We urge all citizens to go about their normal businesses and remain vigilant and report all suspicious characters to the security agencies for immediate action. Let me appeal to our youths not to allow themselves to be used to roll back the peace we're enjoying in the state.
Despite the curfew in Edo State, some residents defy the government's order to engage in commercial activities. Governor Godwin Obaseki takes a tour to assess the level of damage. Youths lay siege to Okpanam Road in Asaba Delta State in protest against police brutality and bad governance. For now, the government say they are resolute in maintaining peace and order in their respective states, and compliance is key.
All right, so there you go. Just giving you some feel of what is happening in different parts of the country. Well, things are going on thick and fast, but we're also trying to check as much as we can. Those who are suggesting certain things were going on in Akure, in Ondo State, we're going to check that out as well. But above all else, you need to ensure that you just stay safe. And the thing about words is that when you utter them, it could be very difficult to retrieve them because people may go on acting on some of the things that you tweet or put out on your social media handle. It may have a lot more impact than you may have initially intended. So we need to think again before we put out some of those items. So we'll go to break and then we'll return and take a look at some of the dailies and bring you more updates in just a moment.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
With the ongoing EndSARS protest against police brutality, state governors around the country are stepping up action. Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State appeals to victims of police brutality to come forward with their complaints and seek redress through the Judicial Panel of Inquiry investigating activities of men of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. The governor made the call in Makurdi while inaugurating the 8-man panel with a charge to thoroughly investigate allegations of infractions, recommend compensation for victims, and prosecute any officer found guilty.
It is important to highlight the fact that members of the Judicial Panel of Inquiry have been carefully selected based on their representation and merit, and it is our expectation that they would justify the confidence reposed on them. I therefore call on all of you who have been given this important duty to carry out thorough investigation into the reprehensive activities of the Nigerian police in Benue State, especially SARS, by providing the opportunity for victims to come forward to testify.
Over in Enugu State, Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi is also on his toes, inaugurating a judicial panel of inquiry to investigate complaints of police brutality or related extrajudicial killings. The governor says the judicial panel of inquiry is to conclude its assignment within 6 months.
I enjoin all residents in Enugu to remain law-abiding and go about their normal business. I urge our youth to have faith in this process and remain calm as the outcome will settle the suit at pace. Finally, we reiterate our faith in the Nigerian project and our commitment to a united and prosperous Nigeria that holds hope, justice, freedom, and equal opportunity for every Nigerian, especially the youth, irrespective of religious bent or ethnic distinction.
In the same vein, the Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma inaugurates a judicial commission headed by Justice Florence Duru Igwe. But the governor goes a step further. He also visits the Imo State Police Headquarters in Owerri to inspect the office of the dissolved Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SARS) in the state.
We are here to ascertain the extent of work or compliance to the directive of government to disband SARS. As you can see, we visited the office of SARS. SARS has been disbanded, and all the suspects in their detention camps have all been released. And police, in keeping with the directive of Mr. President and that of the Inspector General of Police, has done what they are supposed to do in Imo State.
For the time being, NSAS protesters are still on the streets across the country. They vow to continue their agitations till all their demands are met and implemented.
Welcome back. Yes, indeed. So we are going ahead and focusing on this subject matter. Lots of, well, of course, people are angry, people are emotional, they lost their loved ones. They want to hear from the president. Just say, well, what's going on? What about the army? Who did what? And so what's going on? But I guess we'll keep tabs on that and see when that will happen. But now we've got two gentlemen joining us to weigh in on the matter. Shehu Mahdi is a policy analyst and rights activist, joins us via Zoom. And then we equally have Dr. Ahmad Sulaiman, who is a lecturer, public law, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for joining us today on the program. Let me start with you, Dr. Mahdi. These are clearly trying times for the country, families, people who have lost loved ones. People don't understand why those shootings had to happen. So, and people rightly will be angry. But from what you've seen and the responses that are making the rounds, what do you think of it?
Let me start saying that there is this popular saying that it takes two to tango. Now, it takes more than two to tango under the current circumstances. The other time, you remember, I was saying that there is absolutely nothing wrong with people demonstrating eventually to express their own anger. But there is everything wrong the moment they begin to go across the fault line. Now, I can ask you a simple question. NSAS legitimate. Protesting legitimate. But what is the linear relationship? What is the connection between the NSAS project and banning of palaces, banning of media houses, banning of offices, and so many other things that are technically, physically, and visibly wrong, and they are not connected? The moment you begin to go beyond the fault line, you lose whatever justification you have in terms of protesting.
Well, we seem to have lost him there, but yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll still get him back and get him to conclude. But part of the point he was making there is that those who are taking advantage or infiltrating the ranks and burning, razing properties, that clearly says should not be the case. Well, we equally do have Dr. Ahmad Sulaiman, Let's get across to him and hoping that this... Okay, Dr. Mahdi, we'll have you back now, thankfully. Go ahead, please.
Yes, what I'm saying is that either ab initio,
Yeah. Okay, so we'll keep trying to get that sorted out today on the show. But Dr. Sulaiman equally is there. So let's get across to him and get his perspectives on these developments, preliminary thoughts. Good morning, Dr. Sulaiman. Thank you for joining us today. Well, we have heard from Dr. Mahdi how he thinks that, well, those who are taking laws into their hands and destroying property are just drawing the negative attention to those who are going about it the normal, peaceful way. What do you think of what's happening?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Seriously, I'm sad. I'm sad that Nigerians, we have a lot of things to learn from. We people, we need to be very frank and sincere with ourselves. Let's first ask ourselves, what has been happening since 3 days to this time? Can we simply call that innocent protest? Can it be said to be innocent protest when protesters burned police stations like they did in Benin and all that? Can we say it's innocent protest when protest leads to killing policemen? Now, this is by the side. You have leaders who have been known to take an opposing view, to be in opposition to this government. They now hide under this and utter statements that seems to guard these young Nigerians on as if what they are doing is all right. We have to own up to our country, Chamberlain. What is happening is beyond protest. What is happening is violence. It is what can be classified as OSV, riots and other situations of violence. When protest amount gets to that level, definitely law enforcement have to come in to enforce law and order. And Nigerians have to learn from what happened here. Chamberlain, Libya started this way. They started as just demonstrators. They were guarded on by the West, just like the same West is guarding our youth on to go on now. But at the end of the day, where has it landed them? Even
well,
United States Secretary...
Dr. Sulaiman, you know, we also need to be cautious so as not to paint everything or everyone, every circumstance with one brush. Well, clearly we saw how this all started, how organized it was, and how there wasn't any arson, there wasn't any vandalism, there wasn't any robbery, as it were. If anyone tried it amongst them, they were quick to point and call them out. Until we saw infiltration, until we saw certain people who were beginning to attack people, are you able to distinguish that those things and separate them from the initial way the protest started?
Yes. You know, Chamberlain, protest, violence, the line between them is very thin. It has always been a very thin line. Distinguishing between demonstration and protest and between violence and conflict. Now, I want you to look at it this way. When it started as mere protest, nobody could then condemn the reaction of government. In fact, even the demands they came with, 5 demands, were accepted. Now, I want you to look at when did violence started erupting. Look back to where it started in Benin. As at that time, it has crossed the line of mere protest into riots and violence. And this spread down to some other parts, up to what we witnessed yesterday night. Now, what I'm saying, Chamberlain, is that when issues start like, there is responsibility on the government to enforce law and order. Otherwise, it will engulf into a crisis that will engulf all of us.
All right, Dr. Mahdi.
That is why I'm drawing
okay, Dr. Sulaiman, let's bring Dr. Mahdi now. We lost him at that point.
And us, other Nigerians.
Okay, pardon me. We lost Dr. Mahdi at some point while he was trying to get his points across. I think we've got him back now. Dr. Mahdi, could you please go ahead? You were talking about it takes 2 to tango. Could you shed some light on that? Do we still have Dr. Mahdi there? Well, Dr. Mahdi, you were making a point about taking two to tango.
Yeah, so I can't interrupt
but as
you.
at that time, it was so organized.
No, Dr. Sulaiman, just hang on a minute. This question is for Dr. Mahdi. Dr. Sulaiman, you have to hang on a minute. The question is for Dr. Mahdi. Just hold on. Dr. Mahdi, you can go ahead now, please.
Chamberlain, I can't hear you.
You can go ahead now. Dr. Sulaiman is on hold.
Okay, so what was that your question?
You were making a point about taking two to tango. What's the crux of the point?
Yeah, the crux of the point is that when situations like this arise, sentiments should be kept aside completely if it is going to succeed. But now it has degenerated. It has escalated. It has gone off from the normal crisis expected in a society to a level of violence that has not been anticipated even by the people who have organized this crisis. Now, let me just ask a question. I saw President Obasanjo yesterday making a point and calling on President Buhari to prevail over the military, not to use excess force. And I asked myself, it is the same Obasanjo who was at Zaki BM with a full military retinue when there was crisis there. Is it the same Obasanjo who was also implied to injustice during Joshua Dare? We must not be talking from two sides of the mouth. If there is a crisis in this country, every responsible person should act wisely, behave wisely, and think wisely. Otherwise, nobody has monopoly of violence.
So, Dr. Mahdi,
across.
As it is now, as it is today, with what has happened, I mean, what is wrong with his statement asking people to sheath their swords and the country looking to the president to ensure that this doesn't get out of hand? Isn't that what everybody wants? To ensure that the president speaks to the country to make sure it doesn't escalate any further?
There is nothing wrong with that, but what is very wrong is that the law says he who comes to equity must come to equity with clean hands. We want people whose past was very clean to intervene and to make an
We just seem to keep losing that connection. Dr. Sulaiman, actually, there are two of you, so we had to just keep going from one to the other. So that's why we will ask you to hold on when the next person is on. But right now, that hearts are bleeding. The nation, everyone wants to ensure that this doesn't escalate. Okay, I think we lost Dr. Sulaiman, are you there now? We'll keep losing both of you time and again. Okay, so now that we're trying to de-escalate the situation and not ensure or fan the embers of violence, what should we be doing now? Because shouldn't the president have spoken or addressed the country by now?
I think the important thing, Chamberlain, now, that the president speaking is an issue of politics. But I'm telling you that as an aspect of law, the important thing now is for law enforcement to really come in and enforce peace. Because whatever we need to say, Chamberlain, about human rights and all those values, we need to be alive first before there is human rights. And the way things are going, Nigeria and its existence is being threatened by this. And that is why, Chamberlain, I was citing the instance of how Tunisia started this way. And where
but Dr. Sulaiman, we don't have so much time, so we're going to be wrapping up soon. So I'm trying to understand your point. At this stage where we are, to prevent things from de-escalating, is your point that there will be no need for the president to address the country?
No, I mean, politically, yes, the president may deem it fit. Politics is a game of options.
What is political about stopping lives from being lost?
Well, the issue is that presidents have their styles. You have the Obasanjo style, you have the Jonathan style, you have the Buhari style. Some presidents are very vocal. Some are more seen in action. Me, I'm not looking into that. What I'm looking into is Nigerian existence, our own law and order to be maintained. And in that case, what really deserves to be done is for law enforcement to really come in and enforce peace. Because the way we are agitating and the way we are speaking about what is happening, we are not being frank with ourselves. Some of these activities are going beyond protest now. Law enforcement needs to come in so that those who are involved in should be dealt with. Those who are involved with any criminality in the name of
all right, as we wind down, Dr. Mahdi, well, would it be out of place for leaders, all governors, speak in their states, the president take the lead, speak, because people will hear from the vice president and they thought, wait a minute, what about the president? Are you there, Dr. Mahdi? Dr. Mahdi,
Yes,
go
I'm
ahead,
there.
please.
If it is the choice of the president to remain silent, so be it. If talking by the president will de-escalate, let him speak. If speaking by the president will not de-escalate, let him keep quiet. If talking by the president will make matters worse, why should he talk? What is important is that responsible parents must talk to their children and they must talk sense into them. This is not a protest. My take, and I repeat, my take is that those who are drumming for the people, they said that if you see an old woman dancing in the middle of the bush, dancing without seeing the drummer, if you don't know who is the drummer, the old woman knows who is the drummer and the music she is dancing to. My take is that people behind these children are fanning the ember of hate and they want this country divided. If they want this country divided, divide this country on the table, not with guns, not with arson, not with murder. We've seen in places in Libya, in Sudan, in Somalia, in Iraq, we have seen what violence has led into. If we want this country divided, so be it. Let us divide this country in peace, not in pieces. But I suspect something somewhere, somehow is wrong.
Well, at the moment, the issue is that those who have lost their lives, families who are bleeding, in order to stop the escalation of, in order to stop further violence, it is an important thing for leaders to rise up and speak. And that is what people are asking for, nothing more. Stand corrected. But we do appreciate, gentlemen, both of you, for talking to us this morning. Dr. Shehu Mahdi, policy activist and rights activist, policy analyst, as well as Dr. Ahmed Sulaiman, lecturer in law, political, legal, and legal department of the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria. We will be back in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. We've got retired Colonel Yomi Dare, who is a former director, Army Legal Services, joining us as well this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning, Chamberlain, and thank you for having me.
Well, one of the events that actually shocked a lot of people while all of this went was the shootings by men in the military uniform. They described them as the military, involved in that particular scenario, killing several people. At the moment, there are several names of families, members who can't be accounted for. People are looking for such people. People are beginning to grieve. They're seeing that lots of lives occurred at that point in time. But huge question mark about the military's role in this one. Now, as a former officer involved in that, seeing those visuals, I'm sure you must have seen those images of them shooting. What went through your mind?
First, let me send my profound sympathy to the families of those who have lost loved ones and then who might have been affected, whoever might have been affected in whatsoever way. I send my profound sympathy. I think it is a very, very, very sad situation. Like you said, what I've also seen on the visuals. But having said that, I want to quickly also say here that we have to be very, very careful as to what we see, especially on social media, and accept hook, line, and sinker. Because to my mind, and then getting views across the board and then trying to analyze, I think we must just be very, very careful so that we don't fuel an already bad situation. About the military, if indeed the military was involved in this, because with my experience and length of service, it's not something that I'm very proud about. And I do know from my service knowledge that there are procedures and that you don't just call out the military, or the military just don't get involved in what is totally and completely a civil matter. So there are procedures, and I would seriously urge, the military authorities and indeed the federal government to immediately investigate this and bring perpetrators to book.
Well, Colonel, there are images making the rounds about what paraphernalia or what items that were on the ground, on the scene of that shooting. They are said to belong to Nigerian military. For some of those images, I don't know if you can show them now. So when they saw those visuals, trying to see if we can see them so you can see yourself and respond whether or not those belong to the military, because you could see the name tags which are usually associated with the army. So all of those items, don't they point to just one thing, that look, where else could this have come from?
Well, Chamberlain, nerves are very frail right now, and I wouldn't sit down here and...
Can you see what's on the screen right now?
Incidentally, I cannot see because we're on Skype, so I'm just... I can't see what you are saying, but even at that, I have been listening and have been watching a lot of posts. Okay, I've been watching a lot of posts.
But you can see me
making the rounds. I can't. Okay, right now I can see. Yes.
Yeah. So those of the Nigerian military.
Well, you see, honestly, Chamberlain, we have to be very, very careful. I can see ranks. That's the lieutenant 2 stars. I can see some name tags. But how on earth do you expect that the military will, go into that place and then their name tags will be dropped? Did people pull those name tags from them? Please, we have to be very careful. Nigerians, we must be very, very careful. For me, what I really see here is that I think there are some puppeters. There's an agenda. Probably someone somewhere, some group people are probably trying to set, this part of the country on fire. I am not saying that. Please mark my words. I totally support the cause of this youth. It all started. I live in Lagos, and I watched how organized these kids were.
I watched how organized they were in the way and manner they were conducting themselves. Okay, they have genuine reasons. Of course, they have a right to. I have witnessed police misconduct. Okay, so mark my words. I am
so,
not supportive
Colonel
of
Dare,
it.
now looking
Yes,
at, haven't seen those images, and then there are questions as to when people see them, only one thought will come to their mind, other than, well, if the relevant authorities don't speak and respond to those kind of issues, how should the army have responded, having seen the shooting that occurred, images that were found? These are several hours afterwards.
Well, I think that is left for the military and the spokesperson of the military to respond. That's not my duty, But if you ask me, I mean, from my service knowledge, from my experience, and from what is even making the rounds, you don't take hook, line, and sinker everything that you see on the social media. I mean, we've had cases right now. I've read how some people were believed to have been victims of the so-called massacre, and yet the people say, "Look, I'm alive. I did not even leave my house on the day in question," and how somebody was alleged to have been shot and the brain, out of the skull. I mean, these things. I think there's more than meets the eye. So what I'm just saying is that we have to be careful. And mark my words again, the EndSARS movement started well organized, well coordinated, and the kids, they have a right to, they have a justifiable cause to be out there.
All right, but Colonel, when because even our correspondent Olu Phillips was there on the night, and there were shells of expended cartridges that he saw on the ground at that time, and today you haven't had any of those experts in the military or military themselves respond to those particular things that were found there. So the thing now is, when you leave all those gaps, what do they expect people to do, particularly those who were there and heard shouts and narratives? How should they have responded? What impression are they supposed to have left with?
Well, that is very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. I mean, you are right. As we speak, I mean, I expect that someone should really come out and let the public know exactly what has gone wrong. And if indeed, those that went there to disrupt that peaceful protest that night, if they are indeed military men, they should be brought to book. I think they should be brought to book, and the military has a way of dealing with that. It's unfortunate that we are not seeing anything right now, but I want to believe that something is going on, because usually the military will not, come over the air to say, "Oh, this is what we're doing," until probably they have concluded it. So, but I honestly too am yet to be in touch and find out exactly what the situation. I've tried to reach one or two people, so I want to believe that they are still working on what they want to come up with. So that's just my take here.
Well, we equally reached out to a lot of your colleagues who have just only months left the service, and they said they equally tried to find out what actually happened from the military, and they said they met a brick wall. So one wonders, is there a conspiracy of silence in all of this? But what do you make of this? Because these are some of the items that are circulating out there, and normally traditional media will try and get across to the relevant authorities to confirm. But when they don't confirm and they refuse to speak up on those matters, you just wonder if people will make up their minds or have their impressions or leave with certain impressions. Now, there's this particular narrative which is circulating out there. As a former officer, I mean, you know how it works. We'd like to get your impression of some of this narrative here. Now, it was said at the time that there was, because when they accused a certain Francis, a certain Brigadier General of Lagos Garrison, who they said was responsible for this particular team, well, he was said to have responded saying, well, he was not in charge. He didn't order or give the order, because there are questions as to who gave the order. Well, he is reported to have said that he rushed to the scene at about 39 minutes after, and then he got in there, identified himself, yelling such that the soldiers there will know that he is this person. And then it's also been circulated that he discovered that there were soldiers from the 65 Battalion Bonny Camp, led by their commanding officer, one Lieutenant Colonel S. Bello. And then the allegation equally says that the soldiers and their CO, Lieutenant Colonel Bello, are writing reports. So these are all matters that are circulating everywhere. And then when people try to confirm, nobody seems to be confirming or denying any of these things. But as a former service person, what could have happened in this kind of scenario? Seeing this, the identifying people, identifying commands, and what transpired?
Well, thank you very much. That's a very germane question, Chamberlain. But before I answer your question, there's something that just struck my mind. You know, because I was going through a lot of being a retired military officer, you know, and then of course being a parent too, because I've watched closely the activities of this NSAS movement. I've been a parent too, and hearing that people have been killed, children have been murdered, massacred. You know, but one big question is, where are the corpses? Where are the parents who have lost their loved ones? I haven't seen, to be very honest with you. So that's why we must be very, very, very careful the way and manner we spread this virus. Mark my word, virus in quotes. Where are the people? Where are the corpses, Chamberlain? You ask. I had Olu Phillips' interview on the spot. I saw him. I saw the way they raised 2 rounds of ammunition. I saw all those things. But the question is, where are the corpses? Where are the parents? Where are the, who are the people who have lost this loved ones? I mean, they are not ghosts. These are human beings. Where are the mortuary? Where are they taking them to? Of course, I read how some hospitals have opened their doors, you know, that people can bring victims and come and treat them free. So what are the, where are the, well, and for crying out loud, my experience, yes.
Are you suggesting that those shootings and no lives were lost? Those shootings didn't happen and no lives were lost?
I am not saying, please mark my words, I'm not saying that, I had shootings too. But what I'm saying is that, where are the lives?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that soon. Yeah. But I'd like you to respond to those issues that I raised first.
Yes, but let me answer your question now. Well, I also listened to the officer who said he was at the scene. I read those reports, okay? And then a certain officer was mentioned. I mean, you know, in the military, it's really wrong, because there's no way that a battalion commander, because the unit that is referred to, 65 Battalion, is based in Bonny Camp, which is just a straight distance or journey from the Lekki toll gate. Okay, I mean, a certain officer has been mentioned. You know, I'm also yet to hear what the outcome of that will be. But then I want to seize this opportunity to appeal to my colleagues in the military, especially those ones serving, the Chief of Army Staff. Let them quickly come up. Let them come up and let the public know what role, if any, they have played in the whole of this.
Part of the information out there is also that there were 2 superior officers who were bypassed, and then directives came through from Abuja to a certain Bello who carried out carried out the directives. You heard that as well, haven't you?
All these are news that you cannot authenticate at this point in time.
But that's the point. That's the thing. These are out there, but they will refuse to confirm or deny those items and then leave you to yourself so that they can say, if you go with them as gospel, then they come after you. So, but society can't continue that way if they won't speak to those allegations that are out there.
Well, I agree. I do agree with you, Chamberlain, and I am sure that as we speak, even the authorities, they are listening and they are watching in. So it's important that they come out and let the whole world know, not only Nigerians, because it's like the lenses of the world is focused on Nigeria as we speak. So it's good for the military, because if indeed this happened and the military was involved as claimed, I'm not going to be, it's not something I'm proud of. And I stand here to condemn that action if indeed the military got involved in the way and manner
because
that's been portrayed.
There are people who have told us that they've spoken to their sources and some of those things have been confirmed. But as you know, the way it works here, they will not speak to you on camera.
Well, all these are still speculations.
But then, you say you saw images on social media and you referenced some of them a while ago. But equally on that platform are names of families, of people who say they can't account for their persons, their images, their footages, of people who have gone missing, who no one can account for. Families are grieving. They say they can't find any of those people. So having seen all of those things, are you suggesting that all of those names and everything are being fabricated, that they made them up?
Chamberlain, don't undermine the power of conspiracy when it comes to social media. You recall what happened with Bush during the Iran-Iraq, that caused the U.S. to intervene in Iraq. Some of those things were just cooked up. So we must be very careful. These days, people just oppose.
So the images of people in military uniform shooting, which we saw, which is also circulating, I don't know if we can show them now. Are those, we've seen them on international TV as well. Were those also fabricated?
Yeah. Well, I saw some of those things myself, and I was dazed because I'm yet to. That's why I also expect that as we speak, the military, should come out. If indeed those people we saw were soldiers, and of course, some things that even happened, before, yes, I can see it. So some things that happened before the whole of this thing, busted. For example, someone coming there to remove the cameras, and then the lights were turned off. So these people are there. So I'm glad that the governor of Lagos State, His Excellency Sanwo-Olu, said he has instituted an investigative panel or committee to look into this. Yes, I think we must just be patient and allow them to come out with this. I believe that some people are culpable. For me, this action is totally condemnable. Yes, I saw people in military uniforms, but again, let's confirm. Because what we have going on in this country, we have people. These uniforms, if you go into the barracks, you can even buy them off their markets. So again, I think this is a very, very great lesson for the military too, to be able to really manage the way and manner their accessories or accoutrements gets out into the public. Because look at those ranks. Those badges, these are some of the things that could have been picked up anywhere, So I want to urge us all Nigerians to allow them. I believe that before, I'm not sure, but I just believe that before the end of this day, the military will definitely come up with a position or a report on this ugly development. So that is just my take.
Well, you know, the thing about that too is that, I mean, no matter what happens, it's still the Nigerian military. That's what it is. But at the moment, because I did tell you that our correspondent Olu Phillips was there, he's covered it for days, for weeks. And right there were shells which he picked up and showed it to everyone. It was on camera, it was on TV. He had those shells from that scene showing that those shootings did occur. There are footages showing that those shootings did occur. So right now, the military makes it difficult for families or those who actually have been exposed to all these messages, who know a person or two, that they make it difficult for them to relate with them normally, usually, as though nothing happened. If that vacuum is left, all those narratives are out there. Nobody is speaking and confirming those kind of items.
Chamberlain, I think here again, knowing Channels as a reputable media house, I want to urge you guys, I want to encourage that Olu Phillips should go, you know, a further mile in probably identifying some of these families, and then probably, you know, even going to visit maybe some mortuaries where these people have been taken to. I think it will help us. I mean, investigative journalism should come into play at this point in time, so that we don't just sit down and start to speculate or help to fuel, you know, what I see as some conspiracy here. You know, we must be very, very careful, because this is our country. As we speak, properties have been burnt down. People have lost properties, and
but Colonel, it sounds convenient. It sounds convenient to reference investigative journalism when the same men in uniform are the first ones who will just clobber even journalists who are going about their constitutional role when they are covering things. Citizens today can't even recall the police action taking or doing anything whatsoever without them being in danger. But they're very quick to talk about investigative journalism when those officers themselves will very easily, just like that, manhandle people who are doing their professional jobs.
And let me also tell you
pardon
something.
Me, Colonel. I understand we need to go to break, but just hang on. We'll come back to this when we return.
Toll Plaza, which is just 100 meters away from me. Now, this place used to be well lit by the street lights. Remember that we spoke live here from this spot at 5 p.m., telling the whole world that these people are still peaceful, sitting on the floor and telling the whole world that they want their government to listen to them. And after that time, just a few hours after that time, when it came into darkness, the street lights went off and some folks approached in uniform and opened fire. I'm gonna speak to one or two persons who were very close to some of the firing range and what they have to say. Please, can you come? Tell us what exactly happened. Speak up.
We were protesting peacefully. After comedian AY approached us, he addressed us. There was nothing. We were still protesting peacefully without any violence at all. Immediately, the street lights, they went off. People started shooting at us. We were able to recognize them. They were putting on uniform. These were the military men, the soldiers. We were lying down, waving our flag, telling them we are protesting peacefully. But yet they refused. They were shooting directly at us. It wasn't to drive us away. It was to kill us.
Okay, I'm gonna let him stop there. I'm gonna bring someone else. This is live update, and all our equipment are away. We had to improvise these systems. You can see I have some. You can't see, but I have a lot of folks, friends here in front of me. Those who are protesting, and they're pointing their torch lights, phone lights on me to be able to illuminate this place. Look at this man, for instance. He's conveyed a few people to the hospital, and he's got blood stains all over him. I'm going to ask him to step out again. I'm bringing someone else again. Look at this man. This is part of the damages that are happening here at the Lekki Toll. Now, if you think that is not good enough, Take a look at this. Take a look at this. Take a look at this.
That's bullets.
This is it.
Bullets.
These are evidences that people were shot. Earlier, we saw some pictures that we sent in of someone who was shot on the thigh. 2 people have been taken to hospital that we are aware of, but there are more than 9 persons are receiving treatment in various hospitals across this place. This is what is happening here at Lekki Toll. I have just a few minutes or few seconds to leave this place because we are now under a guarded area by some of these guys, and they assured me that I couldn't do this for more than 3 to 4 minutes.
That this is not in the spirit of the NSAS protest. This is sheer criminality. The protests and the protesters were focusing on reform of our policing system in this country, not to destroy government properties, not to destroy prisons and release inmates. So you can tell that there were some criminal intentions behind this act, that the NSAS protest in Edo was hijacked by criminals, and they used the opportunity to come and release their colleagues who had been held in correctional centers. We condemn the act wholeheartedly, and we expect that even the NSAS organizers and protesters will join us in condemning this dastardly act. Government cannot sit down, fold its arms, and allow a breakdown of law and order in our society, because everybody will be affected. And having undertaken this inspection and seeing the level of destruction that has taken place, we will now move very, very swiftly into action.
Well, Konodari, our concluding moments, and we're looking at those clips. Are you saying that those are not military men?
Well, I want to say here that, take for example, some of those badges of ranks that were displayed. I mean, those ranks are not worn on those camouflage, you know. But even at that, I'm still standing on the point that, look, let's allow the military to come out and,
No. We're not in any way stopping the military from saying whatever they want to say. I mean, they'll say and do what, conduct themselves the way they want. But those images, that's what we're asking right now. These images that you see on telly, can you say categorically that they are not military men?
Honestly, Chamberlain, I am not in a position to say categorically, like you stated, because I mean, I wasn't on that spot. You know, I mean, I'm just watching images on social media. But again, I said we should deploy investigative journalism here. Let's go the extra mile of even visiting some of these families who have supposedly lost their loved ones, and then probably visiting some of these hospitals where people have been treated and ascertain and get facts so that the public will be fed the right thing, you know. But mark my words, I mean, I am totally in support of the movement of the NSAV because I saw the way they were well coordinated, they organized themselves, they fed themselves, they cleaned up the environment, and a lot of responsible, you know, people, you know, even some parents even joined in the protest. You know, we are Nigerians. We have witnessed, you know, how some policemen have conducted themselves in ethical manner. So I personally, you know, whatever happened, or rather what happened that Tuesday night, honestly, I condemn it. I am not in any way in support of it. If indeed the military took part in that, whosoever is responsible, let them bring them to justice.
Well, the press will. The press will always do what they have to do, but we know how it works in these crimes and impediments that they will put in the way. Because, I mean, do the military need any investigative journalism to speak to all those images that are circulating at the moment, at least address them?
Well, if the military doesn't speak, let the press convince the world. Let the press, visit the wounded. Let them visit the families that have lost loved ones. Let those things come up in the open so that we can really be clear in our heads what we have at hand. Okay?
In other words, what? They shouldn't speak? Is it acceptable? Should it be?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Does that suggest then that they shouldn't speak to all of those materials that are narratives that are all out there?
Well, I want to say that whatever we are doing, we must ensure that we are on the right path. Whatever cause we want to plead, there must be justification. There must be fairness on both the side of parties, as it stands here now, And again, justice is for all. If indeed some elements have decided to take laws into their hands, they should be brought to book. So that's my take. Okay, I am not here to support that some people who have constituted themselves into propagating or perpetuating illegality, that they have done the right thing. No way, I'm not going to do that. I'm a parent, and if indeed children or people have been lied.
Well, Colonel, the thing is, the media have got to respect the rights of these families and friends. If they say, look, we want to grieve, stay away, we can't say anything to these kind of things because they can't comprehend why men who are supposed to be serving them, protecting them, because they're taxpayers, they should serve them, not the other way around, will open fire on them. That's murder in cold blood. So if that's what the world is looking at right now. And if they say, we want to grieve.
Are you saying?
Let me land before you. Let me just respond. Let me land before you now respond so you can understand the question. Now, if those families are saying, no, just hold on a minute, we can't speak about this right now. The media can't force them to speak. The media can't force them to identify their bodies or say their families, loved ones were involved in all of those things. So we need to also put that in perspective. I thought we should put that out as well. When you call for investigative journalism or publish names and things like that, we need to put that into consideration as well.
Well, Chamberlain, I mean, we are talking about lives here, and for crying out loud, if we have to bring to book the alleged perpetrators of the supposed dastardly act, we must provide evidence, We must provide evidence. And how do you provide evidence? And this is where the media also come in. The media must assist in doing that. Because if these people have to be prosecuted or dealt with, like everyone is calling now, including myself, because I believe that if people have done this wicked act, they should be brought to book. So if they are going to be dealt with, let's see. I mean, even if some parents or some families have said, look, we are still mourning, don't talk to us. I mean, are you saying that because some figures were reeled out, we are hearing 11, we are hearing 30,
all right, Colonel.
We are hearing 40, we are hearing 70.
Well,
so if 70 lives, for example, have been lost, are you saying the 70 individuals of parents, families are saying that, look, we don't want to talk? Because
well, Colonel, the thing is, the media won't jump the gun because the military have got to do their jobs. If those are their men, they need to speak up. If they're not their men, they need to speak up time and again to the people who they are supposed to serve and protect. So all of those things. That's why those institutions are there in the first place. So they can't just say, well, jump on investigative journalism, and who knows what the journalists will bring out, and then evidence may be, if there's a, for instance, conspiracy of silence, and the media publish certain things. But look, it's not something we just want to stretch or drag now, because these are matters, lives are involved, families are involved, so we have to be sensitive to all of those things and let the authorities do their jobs, while the media will equally, at different points in time, bring out what they have and know when necessary. But we'll have to thank you, Colonel, for talking to us today. Retired Colonel Yomi Dare, former Director, Army Legal Services. We will be back in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed. Babajide Ogunsanwo joins us now. Still on this protest and SARS and police brutality and governance, all those other subject matter. Well, Jide, yes, indeed, it's generated a lot of attention beyond the shores of this country. Those images as well, many have far much more than perhaps it's even been shown. But from the materials you've looked at and picked up, what is key? What stands out from some of those items that you've been looking through?
There are a lot of things, Chamberlain. Good morning. I'll first of all like us to have at least a 30-second out of my time, a moment of silence for those that have been victims of police brutality, those that have been emotionally wounded by the events we're witnessing. And at the minimum, I'd like to take some of my time out to have a moment of silence to honor them. Okay, Chamberlain, there are three things I'd like us to quickly focus on this one. The first is to look at why the EndSARS hashtag was so important to the youths. The second is to look at why it was hard to stop the protest. And finally, my advice. The first, if we're to look at what happened last week, and we focus on those global online mentions of the word EndSARS, and we look at it and we take a careful look at what had happened each day: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The evidence we have shows that the hashtag EndSARS was used 69 million times on social media, across all social media platforms, 69 million times. The evidence shows that these conversations were not just happening in Nigeria. 66% of the online conversations on hashtags, yes, were happening in Nigeria. 25% of those conversations were from the UK and the United States, and the remaining rest of the conversations came from United Arab Emirates, Russia, Germany, Ghana, and South Africa. So this was a conversation not happening only in Nigeria, it was happening all over the world. Men, young women, majority of these conversations, from the evidence we have, 93% of these conversations that happened last week online were from Nigerians that were below the age of 34. 69 million mentions. You know, if we were to pick up an A4 sheet of paper and we were to write the word EndSARS, that's the equivalent of 345,000 kilogram worth of paper. Chamberlain, here's what I mean. Last week, the Nigerian youths lifted with their hands the equivalent of the size of 2 Boeing 747 aeroplanes. That is how important ending police brutality was for millions of Nigerians all around the world. So we've clearly seen that this discussion was something that was very dear to Nigerians. Now, I would like to talk about the second thing, which I mentioned, why it was hard to stop the EndSARS protest. And based on research, there are top 3 things that have shown that was behind the difficulty in stopping the protest. Because EndSARS was a word that had gone beyond the meaning it had started, which has happened in a lot of other countries. The first reason is let's look at and remember what happened in 2019. There were 10 states that candidate Muhammadu Buhari scored more than half of his votes. 10 states. In 10 states, he scored 8.3 million votes. Lagos State is the only state in the southern region of Nigeria that is listed in those top 10 states where the president scored more than half of his votes. In Lagos State, the president had 580,000 people that had voted for him. You heard me right, 500.
So what has this got to do with anything?
The unemployment and underemployment situation as reported currently by the National Bureau of Statistics. We currently have 2.8 million people that are reported to be unemployed and underemployed. And why I talked about these 10 states is in these 10 states, yes, 8.3 million people had given the president his votes. Today, 16 million people in those states are classified as unemployed and underemployed. But should we blame the president alone for this? That wouldn't be fair. I want you to write some of these numbers down, Chamberlain, because these are the facts. In 1985, when General Ibrahim Babangida took power from President Buhari, his main reason was things were so bad, Chamberlain. Then the unemployment and underemployment situation in Nigeria was reported at 6%. And everybody, General Babangida was upset that 6% unemployment and underemployment rates. By the time President Obasanjo took over in 1999, he was upset that he was taking over an economy where the unemployment and underemployment situation was reported at 8%. For President Obasanjo in 1999, 8% was unbelievable. The evidence we have today, Chamberlain, shows that when President Obasanjo handed over power to candidate Umaru Yar'Adua, unemployment had moved from 8% to 12.7%.
Well, if we could fast forward, Jide, because today it was reported that the stocks have nosedived. Investors are lost 113.1 billion naira. And as it is, the inflation out there is in double digits. They've been trying to get it to single digits, but we've not been successful in doing that as of yet. But from the figures and what you see out there with those unemployment rate, because even as far back as July this year, there were projections that as a result of certain economic indices, those who've lost their jobs and COVID adding to the entire matter, you will have an army of young people. So adding these inflation figures, does that then suggest that we need to be a lot more cautious because you will have a lot of other people who may just join the bandwagon if certain steps, if the leaders are not seen and heard saying and doing the right things to assuage frayed nerves?
That's correct. Today, underemployment is 55.7%. In other words, if we continue at this trend in the next 5 years, every Nigerian youth will be projected to either be unemployed or underemployed. If you look at the inflation numbers, I know the second reason why it was hard for this protest to end. You look at the price of a food item like Gari, based on even the evidence from the National Bureau of Statistics, shows that Gari, relative to this time last year, the price of Gari has grown by more than 50%. The price of the local rice this time, relative to last year, has grown by more than 30%. The price of vegetable oil, relative to this same time last year, has grown by more than 20%. And so the first of the top three things that made this protest hard to stop was consistently we've been seeing rising unemployment and underemployment rates in the last 4 decades. Consistently, we've been seeing the rise of basic food items, which has made it hard for a lot of Nigerians to afford. In other words, Chamberlain, here's what I mean. It is getting cheaper for you to die in Nigeria than for you to live. That is the fact when we see the rate of inflation keeps rising and families' income level remains static. It becomes harder for them to afford basic items like rice, beans, yam, and gari. That is the second reason. Now, the third and final reason is the evidence today shows that, yes, we're having challenges when it comes to our financial balance. But the most important balance that the government has is its account balance of trust. In other words, the government is a dealer in trust. It is important that we keep growing our trust reserves. And that is done when states, for instance, are transparent with the monies that they collect from the Federation account. The evidence as well shows that since May 2015 to August 2020, the states have collected 10.6 trillion naira from the Federation account. The question today is, how have these monies been spent? And if you look at the evidence of the monies that each of the states have collected, it shows, we could start looking at what has happened in the North Central zone. How much has the North Central and how much have the states in the North Central collected from the Federation account? And the evidence today shows that since May 2015, each of the 6 states in the North Central have each collected more than 150 billion naira.
All right, so it tells then that
there's a need for each. So while it's important that we look at what has happened from the federal government's perspective, some of the solutions to the protest and ending police brutality talks to the need for each of the states as well to grow their balance of trust.
All right, Jide, that's a fine place to let it go. I'm afraid we have to. But clearly, we have our work cut out for us in the country. Jide Ogunsanwo, our data and information analyst. Thank you very much indeed. But the thing is, as we step out, wherever we are, whatever we do, we need to be mindful and not let this degenerate into any ethnic, or social, or religious-based scenario of violence or anything whatsoever, because we may know how it starts, but you never know how it will end. So it's better for us to avoid some of these things than plunge ourselves into them. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain, so have a good day.